Norfolk Business Show with Danny Snelling. Sponsored by MT Comms.
Chris Vines, how you doing, mate?
I'm all right, fella. Yourself?
Marvellous. So yes, by the time we had you in there, like you haven't had to walk far, have you?
No. It's only been 2 months since you moved in up here and started this.
Yeah, well, I know you're a busy man, but managed to track you down, pin you down eventually. So what do most people know you for, Chris? And what's the name of your business? What you're up to?
I guess most people know me as an accountant, and obviously my business is JHW, and we share this wonderful building together in the cathedral grounds.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a wonderful building, and first time you've seen the studio as well. So,
It is.
Yeah. So an accountant and JHW Business Services is the name, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So now just, I don't know where you want to start, but I always like to go right back and find out a bit of your background, where you come from, how you ended up here, if you like. Okay. So tell us where it all began.
Getting into accountancy? Or just in
as
general?
far back as you want to go. What were your parents like? What schooling and?
So I suppose obviously a few people in our kind of B&I chapter know, but those that don't, I come from nothing really. I'm a council estate lad, and kind of worked hard most of my life to try and get to where we want to get to. Obviously, those that see some of my posts on LinkedIn will see my boys, my world and my life, and I want to try and give him the kind of life that I wasn't fortunate enough to kind of live. Hence, you work hard to try and achieve that. Safe to say in 7.5 years he's done far more than I've ever done in my whole life. So it's quite interesting, but hopefully he appreciates it when he gets older. So
where did you grow up? Was it Lowestoft? Wasn't it?
I'm a Lowestoft lad, born and bred. Well, Yarmouth technically born and bred, but lived in Lowestoft.
Technically Norfolk, I suppose. But,
just.
And did you go to uni at all? Or?
Nope. No. So I left school at 16, became an apprenticeship chef for a little bit. So I worked for Master Chef Great Britain for would have been 12, 14 months before I then sort of did a bit of work at Potter's Leisure, working on the bars and moving down to Hopton Holiday Village for a little bit, doing a season there before I finally decided to try and get into accountancy. I coincidentally broke my leg playing football on the Sunday of the Monday where I was supposed to start this introductory to bookkeeping course. And obviously being in hospital and going through an operation, I weren't able to start. So as soon as I got out, I phoned City College up at the time to try and say, look, can I still do this course, please? And get on and explained, obviously, the situation. And I got this tutor who thought I was talking about AAT. And at the time, I didn't actually have too much of a clue what AAT was. And I was like, oh, hang on a minute. Any chance I can do this course then? And the guy was like, well, have you done any experience? And I said, well, I've done a few profit and loss and balance sheets in my HNCM and hospitality management that I was doing. From that, he was like, well, that's enough, you can get onto the course.
So what is AAT?
So AAT is kind of the starter level to kind of, I guess you come out of college or sixth form and then you go on to AAT. Those that in our industry have one or two ways. So you either start AAT and progress through that way, finish your AAT, and then you'll go on to ACCA or ACA, SEMA, depending on obviously what element of the industry you want to go into, or you tend to find with your Larkins, your Lovell Blakes and those kind of places, they'll have a quota of kind of people that come from university, which will then start ACCA or ACA, depending on obviously what they want. So for me, it's always been about work route. So obviously it gave that good blend because obviously you earn whilst you were studying and training at the same time.
I imagine a lot of it though is nothing to knock those who choose the university path, but from previous university what do you call them, graduates that I've employed, they don't have those communication skills that are only learned in the workplace. And I guess by doing them both together, give you both at the same time, don't they?
Yeah, I think there's no right or wrong in that. I think there's many a good accountant that's obviously come through the university route as well. But I've always been a sort of firm believer of leaving, starting work and learning your skill on the trade. I was fortunate enough when I eventually moved to Norwich, sort of floated around a little bit till I sort of managed to get a role at Larkin-Gowan, and I learned an awful lot from a guy called Barry Howe, who was my senior manager at the time, and that sort of helped me springboard my knowledge, my skill set, and I'll be honest with you, I'll be forever grateful to him for that opportunity and that assistance.
I know Larkin-Gowan, they are perhaps they understand the need to put you client facing, I guess, and get you out and about in the real world. They put people in B&I, for example, I remember back then, and I've seen it from big firms like Leeds Pryor as well. They send their juniors into networking to actually learn those communication skills, I guess, and learn how to help businesses, and how they tick. But it's good that I guess you got that. You landed on your feet at Larkin-Gowan really to sort of learn those sides of it. So how long were you at Larkin for? And
best part of probably would have been about 9 years roughly I spent at Larkins, so quite a while.
I know you took over from B&I and from me and Fitch, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
It's quite a character. And in fact, I don't know if he's watching, but he actually started a podcast himself a few years back.
Yes,
I have heard a few of his, but it'd be interesting to watch some more. What was it like at Larkin-Gowan? Was it big corporate, or was it, did you get that?
Yeah, I mean, you do have that corporate approach with stuff. Even with Price Bailey, where I moved to, obviously, they are powerhouses in the region, and what you kind of expect to come from. But cannot fault my learning, the environment they provided. And let's be fair. Without their kind of assistance and training and support, would I be where we are today, so to speak? But I spent 9 and a bit years. I moved to Price Bailey for 4.5 before finally deciding to take the big stride into setting up. Really, I'd sort of win quite a lot of work, and you soon learn and realise, well, actually, it wasn't because of where I was working that you win and work. It's because of how you want to work with the clients, how you interact with the clients, and then relationships that people were referring and coming to you. So, the business head in me said, let's go do this.
Before you go into before we delve into the first steps of starting on your own, I think one of the things you've always shouted about, and I remember Ian Fitch used to shout about, is the importance of not just being an accountant, being more a business advisor and looking at the facts and figures and perhaps explaining to the client what the things they're doing well, and get them to focus on those. And I know you've always shouted about it, and it's so true because so many people just never hear from their accountant until year end, and it's just to sign something, Quite rightly, what you've always preached is so important.
Yeah, data is, the way we collect data now is changing dramatically. I mean, I remember when I first started in accountancy in Lowestoft with Julia Took, it was very old school back then. You were still doing manual ETBs and, which is extended trial balance for those that don't kind of know. And it's a way of how we produced the accounts. Everything was manual ledgers, used to do what's known as T accounting and those aspects.
People used to dump a carry bag full of receipts on your desk.
And probably many of people out here will probably remember the old Simplex D books and those kind of style ledgers that people used to keep. We've still got a few clients that still use them here and there. Obviously, they're slowly moving across to technology, but sometimes it is quite nice just to get your teeth into a manual job and sort of realise, this is how we used to do it.
Yeah.
So, but technology is changing everything, and actually, the power of technology and the data that you've got at your hands, you should be able to sit down and analyse your business and use that data for the benefit of your business. How you drive it forward, how you work out your KPIs. And we can talk later about obviously some of the technology we use within our business and how it kind of helps to support the clients.
Well, as I said, we're going to touch on that later. But back then, when you were at maybe Larkin-Gowan or even Price Bailey, were they digital then, or were they their own software?
So really, Larkin-Gowan days, was Sage at that point, the old desktop Sage, and you still see a few. Coincidentally, I've done a conversion last week from a desktop Sage, and it's very obviously very dated software.
Well, we obviously touch on it as well with IT because we're often sort of replacing servers and systems, and you'll always find out clients still using server-based Sage or something like that, and why isn't my Sage working now? You know?
Yeah, and it's hard because obviously you've got to then go out there, get a backup, or they've got to try and send you a backup across, and depending on how big the file is, might not even send. I mean, it's safe to say it's very rare that you see anyone kind of on the desktop version these days, apart from probably some of the older established businesses that perhaps haven't took that step across into the digital world. But it's personally, it was never a product that I particularly liked, but it done the job. And
it was all they had back then, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So let's talk about what prompted you. You know, I remember sitting in a pub with you and Andy Clark one day, and we were trying to convince you to go it alone, really, and take the plunge, because I knew you had it in you, and you know, you knew you had it in you, but it's so daunting, isn't it, taking those first steps towards, you know, doing it on your own.
Yeah, it was tough at the time. You know, personal situations with money and other bits and pieces. We'd had a newborn. It'd have been 2. So obviously the year before, when we were talking about it at the time, it was cash flow and thinking, right, you know, I've only just been in my house a year. I've got my mortgage to pay. I've got a kid to provide for, and those bits and pieces. And it was tough. You know, it was. It's that worry of always, you know, and I didn't have savings. So I come from nothing, so I couldn't really turn to my mum and dad to go, you know, lend us 20, 25 grand to start my business so I can comfortably, you know, so you were kind of, delayed it a little bit, shall we say. But you mean, the good thing for us was obviously when I left Price Bailey, I was fortunate enough that I had a client following that I'd sort of generated over my Lark and Gowan years and my Price Bailey years that wanted to come across. So that kind of gave us a little bit of a starter boost.
And I know it was left amicable with those previous firms you'd worked at, but how do those agreements work? You know, because presumably they'd want something for them, would they? Or
yeah, I mean, for the Price Bailey aspects, because obviously I was then more senior at that point. I had to buy myself out of my contract. You know, and obviously negotiations sort of around that. But you know, looking at where we are now, it's worth every single penny.
Yeah.
You know, and probably you look now, you'd probably go, I'd probably paid even more to potentially do it to know. But hindsight's
I can remember it's clear as anything. We were actually going through your customers, and you were saying, "Can take this one with me, can take this one with me," and then we were working out how quickly you could actually generate the same income you were on there, and it was quite quickly, if I remember. So
B&I's been a massive support, massive support, and you know, I think part of that's obviously developed my brand over the sort of 13 years that I've done it. But obviously, I think without that, again, we wouldn't be where we are today.
And it's not just the business and clients you build, of course. It's those conversations that you have along the way, and people who've been there and done it and got the T-shirt and just ask a bit of advice every now and again. As you know, I've been through a bit of turmoil the last year or two, so it's where it's really helped me.
I think that's the difference. I think for us, isn't it? You know, you've always seen. I think we've always. My first point of call is always to help someone, rather than thinking how much you can bill someone for it.
Yeah,
try and get money out of it. Yeah. That's not. Look, yes, you're in business to make money and those side of things, but actually, I'm more strongly the human element first. It's how can I help someone? You know, can we do what we can in the first instance?
So, what did that first year look like then? When you're going it alone, other than it's just everyone. You know, I assume everyone knows that it's just turmoil for the first year or two. But was there a point where how quickly did that point arrive where you realised actually it's the best decision I've ever made? Was it day 3 or was it day, year 3 or was it?
Well, as you kind of know my story and how the start went. Obviously, we left Price Bailey in September 2019. In November, December 2019, my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer at the time. So we've got a 2-year-old baby. I've got a wife that's now having to go through and then the chemo started within about 3 weeks from diagnosis to there. So that left you the first port of call of, right, I've got to support, and the greatest respects, the horrible aspects was obviously the not knowing side of things, of kind of the extent of the cancer, because then, from your own personal perspective in your head, you're planning out the scenarios. You're going, what if it is the worst case scenario? Well, look, I'm not going to be able to commit as much time to the business and growing, because you've got a 2-year-old that you want to create as many memories with your wife as much as possible. So that was tough. And 5 weeks into the chemo starting, COVID hit.
Yeah.
So, it was a very turbulent kind of start with those two bits and pieces. And, again, I'm trying to support my wife through the chemo and those kind of bits where you can, whilst being in lockdown, as well as then trying to support the client. So I think throughout the whole of COVID, I never charged the client once for helping them with CBILS loans, bounce back loans, furlough schemes. We just done it. We were fortunate enough that we were still growing. We were picking up a lot of clients, and actually I saw the turmoil that quite a lot of our clients were going through, and some businesses literally gone from everything to nothing. And for me, it didn't come back to the helping aspects. It was my first port of call was just got to help them. And we sat and spent so much time helping them through that era, as well as juggling
Of course.
the other stuff. But we got through it. And safe to say, we obviously continued to grow. Sort of that point, I think it was the following year, we bought our first premises down on Rosary Road. At the time, I felt quite happy I was able to negotiate a private mortgage, because we were only a year into the business, so lending had been kind of restricted because of COVID and stuff as well, in terms of kind of your larger sort of mortgages and stuff, and barely, with numbers, it was tough. So we managed to negotiate with the owner of the premises a private mortgage, which at the time we thought was great, and it gave us a decent kind of start, shall we say. Roll forward 12 months from that, we'd outgrown it, and it turned quite messy with the owner, because obviously we needed to sell it. We were then struggling to sell it, and safe to say it cost me quite a lot in interest payments that were then slapped on at the time. And it is what it is. Again, you live and learn. Would I ever do a private mortgage again? Not in a million years. So and then, it cost us an awful lot of money to kind of get out of that building and obviously to where we are now. But the only silver lining out of it is actually the kind of the new people we sold it to are, we picked them up as clients alongside everything else. So it's quite nice. So there are some silver linings at the end of a tunnel in some ways, but
So fast forward, where are we up to? I mean, when you say you quickly outgrow, what sort of numbers were they? I mean, how quickly did you start adding staff and
So I mean, again, across LinkedIn, I've sometimes brashly gone, we are, to me, feels like we're the fastest growing firm in Norwich. I think facts and figures kind of tend to back that up. In 4 years, we've gone from effectively 2 members of staff to 18. We haven't sort of disclosed too much. I mean, give you an idea, the last 60 days, we've put on 76 new clients in 60 days, which is just, it's insane. But the thing is, that's not even a kind of one-off. That's the kind of consistent approach it's been ever since we've started. And I'm massively grateful to the clients, the referral partners that we have in BNI that have kind of helped us to achieve that, because we don't advertise. So, the only thing I do is BNI, and you'll go to a few networking events here and there.
Would you say the vast majority of those are just unhappy, or just they just want to change, or they've just been told they should try you? How do you think the vast majority come across? And
I think it's a bit of obviously word of mouth from your existing clients. Are we perfect in any way, shape, or form? No. I mean, I've really, especially in the last probably 14, 15 months, have been on a massive learning curve, getting the right systems in place, the right processes, the right staff, the right business partners, and various other bits and pieces. So you're juggling that, but we are so grateful for the clients that are with us and on that journey and that continue to refer to us. But I think the main crux is probably because we're client first. It's always, we're there to help wherever we can. I think any client could be on their knees and I'd be the first one there to try and help them in any way I possibly could, and I think that goes a long way. Earning money out of it is the last thing on my mind.
I think most people's perception of using an accountant, it's a bit like a hairdresser, as Claire would say.
Yeah.
Once they're with them, they're with them for life, and they don't want to. Again, like IT, they don't want to change supplier because their IT company knows their setup.
Yeah.
I would imagine it's a very difficult decision for a business to change accountants, because in a lot of cases there's specific stuff that their business does that their accountant understands, and I don't know. I just cannot. Obviously, disbelieve you, but it's just phenomenal figures to have that many people coming across to you, because it's not an easy decision for a business to make. I'm just shocked that there are that many people out there that are either unhappy with their current or just wanting to change on a whim. There must be something driving them to change. And I can only assume it's good things I've heard about you, but it's just phenomenal. I can't, it's a staggering figure, and well done, mate.
Yeah, it comes with its headaches, as I said. It's been.
I imagine one of the biggest concerns or troubles or issues or complaints even you hear is that people are buying into you, but you can't help everyone. It's got to be a point in time where you pass them on to someone else.
Yeah, and that's where we're evolving the team, and it's not trying to create me's, because you don't want that. You try and encourage each staff member to become their own kind of individual person, but actually what I do want is the underlying traits of what we've got. It's clients first. You're there to help the clients. We don't run on clocks or meters or worrying about whether someone's with a client for 2 hours or half an hour. You're there to help them, and then that's the priority, and that's what I want the team to kind of grow and develop into, and the culture of JHW to essentially be. It is about just giving them clients the time. And yes, there's many people in our industries and business will go, but that time's money. But actually, again, I come back to the concept of the sheer amount of work that we win. There's proof in that concept. Actually, just generally being there for people where you can and giving them that time is worth more than trying to charge them for it, because actually you get the referrals.
So, I mean, do you have like a set amount of time that you offer your clients, or is it just, they pick up the phone, they need to speak to you?
Correct.
And is that billed extra, or is that?
No. So that's always all included within it. So it's, as I said, I'd rather a client picked up the phone and asked me a question, no matter how silly they thought it was. I'd rather they picked it up and we answered, or we talked through it, or they've got an idea, they're thinking of doing this, and you'll be surprised how many people do phone you up and want your advice and value your kind of opinion on something. It doesn't always mean we're right. At the end of the day, it's the client's business, and they've got to decide what's right and what's good for them. But actually, it's nice that they entrust your opinion on various bits and pieces.
So if I want a new yacht, then and you advise me no.
Well, if you move this to your yacht,
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, nice one. I like that. I've got an office on my boat. But yeah, I know you're always telling stories about some phenomenal savings, and little tax breaks you can get in places you just wouldn't think of. So I know you've got some brilliant advice in that respect, and it's not tax evasion. It's genuine use of, like if I was using my boat as an office, it is a genuine use of office space, isn't it? And there's all these little things which people just don't think on it, and you have come out with some really good ones recently. I don't know. Have you got a few of those tips you can give our listeners?
I'll keep those to my chest. I think.
Oh, there must be some you can give away. But I'm trying to think of an example. Then, obviously the most obvious one is obviously getting your partner in the business, and those are fairly obvious ones. But some people still don't do it, do they?
No, they don't. No, a lot of companies, you'll tend to find that a husband and wife will be a director within the company as well, and obviously helping out, even though they might obviously still have a job elsewhere. But it is a good way of obviously as a family unit extracting funds out of a business. You'll still be amazed at how many people just don't do the two basic. I mean literally the two basic things of saving money every single year is put your money into your pension before your year end, or go buy some assets for the business. And it still amazes me that those are the most two basic and simple things that you can do, and people still don't do them, or they don't even have that conversation with their accountant to discuss. Right, well,
it should be the other way around, shouldn't it? The accountant should be having a word with the client and
Correct.
saying that you should be doing this.
Yeah.
And as well, it's Christ, mine's gone blank there. But there was another basic thing which people, office space at home, things like that.
Your standard stuff that you expect to see potentially come through normally on sole traders and bits and pieces. Yeah.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. It was, at what point do you become a limited company? There's so many people sort of hanging on to the fact, oh no, I want to be sole trader, and
a lot of that tends to be around the costs because, as most people know, obviously it's a lot cheaper to do a tax return and a sole trader set of accounts than it will be to do obviously a limited company set, because obviously the sheer volume of additional work you've got to do and the compliance issues with the limited company is far greater. However, I think sort of in my 10 minutes I had on Friday in BNI, I sort of professed, we had a client as a sole trader, should have been limited. Obviously, when we picked him up, and unfortunately was stuck with about 170 odd grand to pay HMRC, and because he was a sole trader, he's got to pay that. Yeah. He's personally liable. Whereas at least if he had been in a limited company, there's potentially options there for him available to potentially use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think there's a lesson there, isn't there? And find out, what sort of advice is your accountant giving you, and is it the right advice? So away from business, what's your work-life balance looking like? I know it's not great at the moment, but it's...
No, look, I'm on a journey. I know where I want to get JHW to, and, with any... you see a lot of people across sort of kind of LinkedIn and various bits talk about... you don't need to work all the hours under the sun to grow a business, but in my opinion, you do. If you want to get somewhere, you've got to put the hours, and you've got to unfortunately make some sacrifices along the way. So I struggle during the week. I don't really see my boy too much between a Monday to Friday. Tends to be because of work commitments, meetings, and various bits and pieces. But the one thing I am quite sort of religious on is my weekends are with Dylan and Teresa, and that very rarely kind of gets broken, shall we say? It's only if there's an event on or something like that you might, but other than that, every single weekend we're out doing something.
I know you are as well. You're often chasing up and down the country, going different places, aren't you? But and hobbies. I know you're into your cars as well. You got your aerial atom.
Yeah, I've got the aerial atom. It is up for sale. So if anyone listens, anyone listens what I buy an aerial atom, it's good fun. It's not supercharged.
I did sit outside here yesterday.
Yeah. The BMW's in the garage, so I've got a week of using it. So thankfully the weather's quite nice this week. So, I bought that 4 years ago now. Was it? We went, yeah. Remember you coming down with us to collect it and drive my car back?
I was Googling on the way back, what can beat an aerial atom?
So, but about 4 years ago, I think I got that, and it was again, having sort of seen what obviously Teresa's gone through, there was a choice of two things at the time, the sensible approach, and again, the accountant head in you would go put the money you pay for that into a pension. However, life's short, something might happen. I might not be able to
yeah,
drive, might
yeah.
not be able to
Absolutely,
experience it.
yeah,
So I was
yeah.
like, do you know what?
Well, this is work-life balance. This is what we're trying
Yeah.
to achieve, isn't it? And,
Yeah. So
I remember when I got the Tesla back in 2014. Of course, I had to ask my accountant, but I asked my accountant, "Is this a good idea?" And he actually said yes. And I nearly fell off my chair. Normally, it's everything is a no, but he actually said, "Yeah, it's a good idea." So yeah,
still today, the weirdest car that I've ever drove, mate, was your Tesla, driving it back from after you got the boat from Canvey Island.
Yeah.
I think I literally just made Stansted with just the amount of electric left to charge it.
Yeah.
And then I had to come back and get you.
I only had 4 battery replacements, that car, believe it or not. So technology we're going to move on to now. Obviously, you've touched on the technology, and I know it's Xero that you're a big fan of. There's a few alternatives I know. I guess you can work with others if they're insistent on it.
Yeah, we do. So obviously, look, it's not one size fits all. Some people like different softwares for different reasons, and obviously, you can't be restrictive to that. Otherwise, you are segregating yourself within a client base. However, probably 90% of our clients use Xero. It's my preferred product. We promote it, and actually, I find it's easy to use. For our end, it's easy to use from a client's end. It syncs to quite a lot of softwares, which again, coming back to what I was saying about earlier about the analytical kind of information and how you can kind of streamline what you do, and it's forever evolving. So,
And is it easy to migrate from one platform to another? That's one thing I've always wondered. So if you're on QuickBooks, for example, or something like that.
So in simple terms of moving the stuff across from a QuickBooks or a Sage desktop or Sage Online, yes, you use a product called Move My Books. They don't actually charge you to move it across unless you then want to kind of migrate. I think you get the prior year, current year and the prior year's data, and then if you want to transfer anything more, then you do obviously naturally pay for that data to come across. However, caveat that the transition moving across is only as good as the data that's currently in the kind of original system. So if it's a bit messy in there, it is going to be a bit messy coming across into Xero, and will require a little bit of kind of tidying up, shall we say, to kind of put it in the right kind of position.
Yeah.
So, but it is very easy to kind of migrate across.
I have often wondered that because, if I don't know, as you know, in the estate agency, we've got our own bespoke software, and I just, there's no way we could ever move from that because it's linked to everything else, so it's, there must be examples like that as well where, you can work with it.
I mean, even Xero has its kind of certain, to a degree, limitations, but that's where you then, you use the add-on marketplace. We had a client, they're probably doing the best part of 10,000 transactions a month, and it just slowed Xero down. It just wasn't able to kind of handle that kind of many invoices coming in on a regular basis. So, you then start looking at sort of AWS and stuff like that, A2X, to kind of be able to link in to move the stuff across and bring it in kind of one invoice, but you then got all the underlying backing data in this other software. So,
but clearly in accountancy, it's moved on massively. I remember Will Farnell, I remember back in 2008, he was flogging, what's it called?
Cash flow,
yeah. And he was involved in its infancy, if you like. And I know he's a great advocate of it, but obviously they're all similar tools, aren't they? But I remember at the time thinking, wow, this is the future. And there weren't many people using it back then. It was all just Sage Desktop, I'm sure, back then.
Or still manual ledger. I mean, it has changed. Obviously, you've got MTD coming in next year, finally. Whether they'll push it back again or not, unlikely this time. But obviously,
is this the forced digital?
This is the forced digital stuff, for your kind of sole traders. So obviously, they will have to kind of look at softwares. Xero did kind of try and bring out a smaller product in their marketplace, and a few of the others have. Cost, I think, is going to be a big issue for some of the smaller sole traders. Actually paying 300, 400 quid a year for a piece of software, whilst it might seem small to them, can be quite significant, but there are some softwares out there that are offering it for free or free as part of your banking and stuff, and it's definitely worth them kind of looking into.
I know Claire's going to have to look at that with the hairdressing.
Yeah. So,
or I am rather.
so, but yeah, no, it's but it is evolved. So like I say, we heavily use Zero as our main product. They've brought some pretty good features out over the last sort of few years. So we were using something called Cresco, which does the pay now button link on the invoices. I think last year they brought Cresco out themselves, Zero.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So to then bring that in house, and what they've actually done is using it with your payables function. So again, I mean, for some of the stuff where we're doing like the outsourced FD work and stuff that we do, it saves so much time for clients making payment runs, because we can now just go through the creditors list and go pay now, pay now, pay now, pay now, pay now. Yes, they charge 20 pence a transaction, but when you contemplate how long it takes you to go into your bank every single time and find the person you're paying, put the amounts in, and then matching it all up, it's a massive saving for 20 pence a transaction.
Yeah.
So,
So what do you enjoy most about what you do? I know it's helping. Are there some standout sort of wins, if you like, or real success stories of how much you've saved someone? Or I know you do it daily because
yeah, it is nice when you do, save people quite a lot of money. I personally, as you know me, I enjoy the business aspects of stuff. I enjoy helping people with their businesses, and seeing them grow and wanting to help them grow and those bits. And, probably a big shout out to, one of my good friends, Ryland, and Steve, over at Stanton Stubbs. It's been a pleasure working with them over the sort of 8-9 years, and the friendships that we've created as well, but seeing their business go from small to where they are now. But I've got many a client that have kind of gone on that journey, and it is fantastic to see them kind of growing and developing further. And it's nice to be that supporting arm along the way.
Yeah, I can imagine that's very rewarding, because you do literally get to see every little twist and turn of that business throughout its infancy, and then to grow into something quite substantial. That's
my biggest truthfully, and for the future as well, is whilst it's great helping the clients and those grow their business as well, but it's got to be our staff as well. Actually going from that, being able to take someone's life and help them to become a skilled and qualified accountant, and help them on that journey, whether they stay with us or not. Yes, naturally you'd want to retain the staff, but actually if you've helped someone become an AAT qualified or an ACCA qualified accountant to then move on in their lives and careers, you've been a big part of that journey to helping them achieve it. So
I guess you can see it from their point of view as well, just wanting to do something different. And so on that note, I know you've been through the walls recently with certain business problems. I don't know if you can touch on how that came about and what really went wrong, and I don't know how you can defend against it in the future.
I won't repeat the same mistakes, that's for sure. Again, I say it's the point of making mistakes. You're there to learn from them. We all have different paths or different journeys that we want to kind of go on, or different directions. I'll politely just put it comes down to facts and figures, and sometimes you've got to make the awkward business decisions. Most of our growth has been achieved from this end, and that kind of from it weighs its toll, shall we say. It's been some tough business decisions. I think both me and Adam, who's my business partner, have been through a really, really tough 5 months with everything that's gone on. The positives for us, as I said, is actually what went out the door with the exiting business partner in under 2 months we've replaced, which is just nuts really in some aspects. But it's good for us because it puts us back into the same position we were almost at. With the departure, but also again it shows why we've departed ways. We're on a different growth chart and trajectory of where we want to get to. I've got 15-20 years probably working life left in me, obviously, very similar to a predecessor at Larkins in terms of, I remember him saying he wanted to retire at a certain age, and he has. I've always said I'd quite like to retire at 55, or at least have that decision to be able to do so. And if that means you've got to work solidly, consistently for 15 years to do so, then I'd like to think at 55 you're still young enough to at least get around the golf course a few times.
That was my goal. I don't think it's quite on target for that, but what is the end goal? Do you think it will be sale? What do they call it? Management buyout
and stuff.
Or would you do? Is it an industry? Sorry, that's my phone going off. That is, goodness me.
Same, mine's on vibrate.
Mine's on do not
just going nuts in my pocket. So.
Was it ringing out loud or just in my ears?
No, it's definitely ringing out loud.
God, that's on do not disturb. Do you think it might be a management buyout, or is the accountancy world one in where there's always acquisitions going on? Or
there's always acquisitions going on. We've set our target within 5 years will be to be 2.5 mil, and we're on course to kind of achieve that. Which I think is, and that's without acquisitions. So buying a firm ourselves, and I think if we can achieve that, then we've done very well. Really, in sort of effectively 9 years. Ultimately, my end goal, or dream goal, shall I say, would be between that 55 and 60 mark. If I could leave JHW as reaching the top 100 practices in the UK, I'd be mightily mightily kind of happy. Proud. I'm proud. That's my goal. It's a big ask and a big task in some aspects, and I imagine potentially there'll be some acquisitions along the way to then try and help with that. But for me, I feel I've then kind of achieved something fully in life, and that's all I've ever wanted to do. I'm not one to sit still. So.
But do you think you would more likely want to just keep involved, keep it going, and perhaps take a bit more step back once you've achieved, once you've gained, or would you like that lump sum and disappear?
To be fair, a lot of people who know me and say I'm probably never going to retire. In all fairness, I enjoy working too much and I enjoy helping people too much. Whether you'll go down the consultancy route when you leave or not, it's hard to know. To be fair, I mean, my aim of the reaching it as a 6.5 mil turnover business is you'd like to think it'd then be worth a considerable sum, and really it's to support my son and his potential family for years to come. It doesn't mean he's going to be a lazy little shit. He'll still work hard, and I'll make him work hard. But it's there to give him that kind of full safety net and support, whilst obviously probably paying for a few golf trips here and there over the retirement years.
Yeah, absolutely. So I always ask, is there anyone you could, might be listening that you'd really like to, get a coffee with, get in front of? It could be a client you'd like to pick up. It could be someone who can help you with your business. It could be, it could be another accountancy firm you want to partner with. I don't know. It could be anything. What is there anything out there that you think you'd really love to get a conversation going with?
I mean, I think, like say, with the stuff that we put across LinkedIn and stuff, it's more, I suppose, if you're out there and that you feel that your accountant isn't your first point of call or first point of advice, then perhaps come have a conversation with us, because we are that type of firm and people to kind of be there in your corner. So those that don't have that, come speak to us, or if you're actually sort of wondering how we do the numbers that we do, come have a conversation with us, because we're there to try and kind of help, and I think that's why we do so well.
And that comes across, mate.
Yeah, appreciate it.
I don't know if you got anything else to touch on, or if you anything. Have we covered it all?
Pretty much, apart from the one question that you probably failed to ask me, and every single client asks me at some point, shape and time, and every staff member tends to ask as well, in terms of what does JHW stand for.
Oh God, yeah. I think I've asked you that many times. Yeah,
most people do, and it gets
I do know the
answer.
Would you like to enlighten us?
Yeah, so obviously for everyone in my firm, my other business partner and bits and pieces, it is just a brand that we've created. The only person it's got a meaning to really is, in terms of a sentimental meaning, shall I say, is to me. So obviously John was my middle name and Henry Wolf was my granddad, and I always had a big love for my granddad, and sort of was quite upset when he passed, and so I set it up with the initials on that basis. And ironically, the decision to fully go out on my own came from driving back from Lowestoft to Norwich one day, and the car in front had the number plate JHW B1Z, and that kind of cemented a decision in my head to go, let's go do it. So,
Yeah, I do remember the story well, actually. Yeah. Well, Chris, it's been emotional, mate. Thank you for coming on.
Appreciate it. I appreciate your time, mate.
Thank
you
you
very much. Yeah, love Christmas shows.